It's been 40 years since Creation Records started, the incredible independent record label that formed with Sony in 1992 to create a hybrid indie and major label. It was Alan McGee, signed right here. Incredible story, moving down from Scotland to chase his ambition, fired up by the punk energy of 1977 and the psychedelic 60s, Syd Barrett, Lou Reed. Fired up with those inspirations, he had the ambition to make it in the music business, so decided when he was working on with Network Rail, British Rail, when he was working at British Rail, he decided to take the train down to London, and his life changed forever. So his band, The Laughing Apple, they fell apart eventually. They were Andrew Innes, I don't know how you pronounce it, but one of the future Primal Scream guitarists. He was in that band with Alan McGee, and a guy called Dick Green and Joe Foster were also in many of Alan McGee's bands, because he had a few over time. They kept on collapsing and then he would form a new one. But yeah, Dick Green, Andrew Innes and Joe Foster were regular guys, and it was those three, Alan McGee, Dick Green and Joe Foster, that created, they get credited with the establishment of Creation Records. And Alan McGee had the Living Room. It was a night advertising. Well, it was a club night in London. Can't remember exactly where. Was it Hackney, London? But yeah, the Living Room. That was Alan McGee's first foray into the business side of music. And he also had a fanzine called Communication Blur. And then in August 1983, he decided to press up vinyl and just decided to start promoting local artists. And he saw that he had a talent for hyping up new talent, and he had that punk attitude as well as a neo psychedelic attitude. And really the music that is on Creation Records, it really combined those two aspects of Alan McGee's personality really well. I mean, there's the Axis sign of a dead on. I mean, you've got the neo psychedelic kind of fulfilled by Ride, Slowdive, My Bloody Valentine, the Telescopes, the Boo Radleys, early Boo Radleys, once he signed them from Rough Trade, Everything's Alright Forever, Boo Radleys, Giant Steps, Boo Radleys. Obviously, he had. It's a shame he never had Kitchens of Distinction on there, because they would have been incredible, and Curve as well. But he also had Adorable. He released Against Perfection in 1993. They were meant to be the next big thing. But I think that Pete Fidge, the frontman, kind of fell out with McGee, and there was like various problems like that kind of stopped them in their tracks. So you had the psychedelic side, and then you got the punk side as well, which is fulfilled by, well, I mean, shoegaze is obviously derived from post-punk, isn't it? So they fulfilled both categories really. But yeah, I mean, obviously you had Oasis come along at the end, and they had such a punk attitude. And then Jesus and the Mary Chain, obviously they were the first bands that actually gave the label success. The first single was by The Legend, which is one of McGee's attempts, I say attempts at singing. It's one he's not very proud of. He took a £1,000 loan to form Creation Records in 1983. It was August of 1983 that it was established. So it's September 2023 now. So I'm kind of, this is a bit belated really. I'm like a month too late. But the first successful Creation single was Upside Down by the Jesus and Mary Chain. And they were Scots, just like Alan McGee. So it kind of made sense. It was only a few months after forming that he signed the Mary Chain, and they became the first phenomenon on the label. The kind of noisy punk that they came up with. William Reed with the Sinn Fe Fuzz or whatever it's called. I think Sinn Fe, isn't it? I think that fuzz is called that he's got. Jim Reed, and just using these like 60s pop melodies on top of a wall of feedback, and that kind of it set the precedent really for the label moving forward. I mean, that was kind of the canvas, when the fire lit the paper kind of thing. Yeah, it became the manifesto of the label really. That sound, the Jesus and Mary Chain, really the first ones that solidified the Creation sound. The kind of rough with the smooth kind of contrast going on in the same song. And yeah, it's a really interesting career. I really recommend these books. So you've got My Magpie Eyes Are Hungry for the Prize by David Cavanagh, who is a well-known journalist in music. You've got Paulo Hewitt's book, who's done many books on Oasis, but this one's a general Creation Records book, released in 2000, so pretty much the year that Creation Records folded. So it's interesting. This is going to be quite close to the truth really, because of the timeliness of the source, because it was written the year that Creation were folded. It should be a bit more accurate to the story, but well, even then, with the drugs that Alan McGee took and the rest of them, I doubt they remember any of it, even as close as back then. But yeah, that's another one. It's much more kind of easy to read, this one. It's kind of a question and answer, like interview kind of. It's like an interview format where it's just like shorter, snappier question and answers. It's got like Alan McGee's wife in there, Susan McGee, I think it is. You've got Paulo Hewitt's questions in there. Yeah, Susan McGee. So, it's got like personal life kind of questions in there. More personal than what you would get in, something like this, which is more focused on everything really. But if you want info on the bands, then it's definitely this you want to get. There's this one, obviously. This is the actual book that Alan McGee wrote, Writes, Raves, and Running a Label. And then you've got the 2 DVDs. You've got this one, which is a documentary, Upside Down it's called, obviously aptly named after the Jesus and Mary Chain album that sold 50,000 copies. First successful Creation single. The first singles reached the top 10 was by Ride. That was Leave Them All Behind in February of 1992. It reached a peak of number 8. They appeared on Top of the Pops, and the single was even ahead of like Michael Jackson's latest single at that time. So yeah, it just shows how remarkable, like how, like what Alan Moulder said in an interview. Alan Moulder being he was kind of like the in-house producer for most Creation bands, and he's famous for getting Loveless across the line and producing Ride, Swerve Driver, and Curve, even though they were on Anxious Records, 9 Inch Nails, etc., etc. And Alan Moulder even said, like, you know, that was kind of we love the feeling of having something that shouldn't be there actually be there. So by Ride kind of topping Michael Jackson for like 1 week, that was like seen as a big win, a big yes. Like, so yeah, that was really cool. Signed creation. I ripped this from like one of the vinyl covers, and I got McGee to sign it there. So that was on the same day as he signed my T-shirt when I met him in Exeter. So I drove up from Plymouth to see him in Exeter. It'd be great to see him again. He's a fascinating guy in person. And then you've got the film from 2021, which came out on Sky. What was it? Sky Cinema. I watched the premiere and managed to get it on DVD, like from America. Fortunately, it's quite hard to get this. I found one on eBay or Amazon. But this one, you know, it misses so much. If you're a hardcore creation or independent label fan, you will not be satisfied by this. You will not be satisfied. You know, it's purely for the casuals, the people who... Hold on, I'm in the middle of doing a video. It's purely for like the people who, they just want a bit of entertainment, a bit of a laugh. You know, they only know McGee from signing Oasis. It's kind of only for those people. It's not it doesn't really touch on Ride. It features like 2 of their songs like in the background for like 30 seconds in total. And that's all you get, and that's Ride, for God's sake. I mean, that's like one of the signature bands, and they completely ignore them. It's not even a little scene with them like walking down the street, or, you know, it's not even them like in the background of a scene or anything. And Teenage Fan Club, the same treatment's given to them. You see like the guys like partying and stuff to like one of their songs, but that's as far as it goes. Like, and yeah, some bands just don't even... House of Love don't even get a mention, like with the Guy Chadwick accident where he the Guy Chadwick incident where he goes naked in that club, in that gay club, and like takes all his clothes off, and the moment where he's like shagging somebody, in like a hotel room, and he opens all the windows, and so Alan McGee can like hear all the moaning going on and stuff. But there's not even any of that, you know, and that's like funny as hell, and they miss that. So I don't understand why. I mean, maybe because Guy Chadwick and House of Love moved to Fontana Records, maybe because they moved to Fontana for £400,000 in 1989. Maybe that kind of, you know, maybe there's a bit of a sour taste in McGee's mouth after that happened, you know. Bit of bad blood there, but I don't know. I just think like this film reminds me of, it's like Gran Turismo, the latest film at the cinema, where like if you're a hard gamer fan of Gran Turismo, then there's only like 1 or 2% that actually refers to the game. And like I grew up in the 2000s being like a massive, you know, racing, motorsport, petrol head kind of fan, and you know, I used to play Gran Turismo for hours and hours, and like that film really let me down, because I mean I enjoyed the kind of story of the Jan Mardenborough guy. I thought that was cool, but for the Gran Turismo aspect of it, it was like, you know, it's just, you're missing out on like so much. You're not even like mentioning the Sunday Cup or Clubman Cup, or you're not mentioning the licenses that are so hard to get gold trophies on. You're not mentioning the tuning, the garages and stuff around the world where you can upgrade the car just to get that extra 1 horsepower just to make all the difference, so you win the next cup. And you sell the Mercedes Le Mans car for like 750,000 each time just for winning the German Cup. You know, it's like missing out on all those like quirky details that like every fan will know, and I get the vibe with this, and even this really, it kind of only scratches the surface of the bands. Again, I think this could have been much better, and it's not because they missed on. It's not because they missed out on stuff about the bands I like. It's not because I'm biased. It's just, you know, when you're talking about a record label, it should be about the acts. It shouldn't just be about, you know, one guy. And I think Alan McGee features way too much. He does too much of the talking in this, and they're not going through like the albums, you know. They should say like Nowhere 1990, and then Raise 1991, and then, you know, Primary Scream, Screamadelica 1991, Bandwagon-esque by Teenage Fan Club 1991. It should go through like that and give people a visual kind of guide as to where they're going in the story. You know, so people can see the different milestones as the history is progressing. And yeah, even the official documentary doesn't really satisfy me. But I mean, it's better than this movie. But I still think this could have been even better. I mean, I find there's better sources on the YouTube channel. The Creation Records YouTube channel is better, because you get like interviews with the actual bands. There's like an interview where the Creation guys, like Creation artists, are like saying what their favorite band is on the label, and I think you learn more about the acts that way, really. I think the most comprehensive piece of canon out there is probably this. I mean, look how thick it is. It's how many pages is it? And you're talking about 750 pages, pretty much. Yeah, 754 pages of great material. Yeah, I would get that, and this is the second best one. But yeah, in 1987, you had the Elevation thing that they set up, wasn't it? Which was McGee's attempt to make it more of a run, more like a major label, but it didn't quite work. Yeah, so 1989 is when Alan McGee discovered Acid House, and then there was like a different branch of Creation. They created like a dance offshoot of the label. 1992, you had like Ignition came in, didn't they, with Sony, and see, that's what people forget as well about the story about Oasis. They didn't actually sign to Creation Records. They were signed to Sony, who licensed it to Creation Records. So because Sony and Ignition had formed a deal, like Marcus Russell, the Oasis manager, like signed it or something like that, and basically, yeah, Sony had already, they did a 51/49 split with Creation. So Oasis were an indie band, but running on major label money. They had major label backing, so they didn't come from nothing. To have that success of those, of Definitely Maybe and What's the Story, Morning Glory, you've got to have something behind. You've got to have something behind you to have that amount of success. And yes, the attitude and the songs helped, but really the driving force was really the Sony Ignition money that they were getting. Otherwise, I think if it was just purely a Creation independent effort, then it wouldn't have happened. Maybe not. But yeah, they bought a 51% share in Creation. So it was like a hybrid indie major label, hybrid of an indie and major label. 1993, I mean, Giant Steps got Album of the Year, I think, in NME magazine. Sugar, one of the rare American acts on the label with Bob Mould, released Copper Blue in the latter part of 92. Creation Undrugged takes place in the Royal Albert Hall in 1994. Alan McGee doesn't attend due to personal problems, which is ironic. Creation Undrugged, but yet Alan can't make it because he's on drugs. That's pretty much the story of the whole career, wasn't it? Like, especially during the mid-90s. Yeah, so they stopped in 99. That's when I think Dick Green and Alan McGee decided to call it a day. The final single was by Creation, and it was called Exterminator. Yeah, Exterminator was the final single and album on Creation. Sony released the International Guardians of Rock and Roll compilation album selected by Alan McGee, but are unable to include any track by My Bloody Valentine due to licensing issues. There's no surprise, and still to this day, My Bloody Valentine are very much against being included on any compilation. As Sony shut down the official Creation website, Doing It For The Kids is launched. And then Alan McGee launched Pop Tones. Dick Green launched Wichita Records, who would sign Block Party. And Joe Foster continues with Revola. So there we go. It's a fascinating story. And I mean, if I had a bit more time and stuff, then I would definitely like include more video footage and make this a huge documentary. But yeah, that would have to do, I think. And I really hope people celebrate 40 years of Creation, and because really is a fascinating label, just like 4AD. These two labels were by far the most productive and the most important, even more than Factory, who was run by a rich man, you know, straight out of the blocks. They were run by Wilson, and yeah, Granada TV money was already there. So I don't really respect Factory that much, really, because of those reasons, and they were just more interested in the Hacienda than they were in signing new acts, because all they had was really like Happy Mondays, New Order, and Joy Division. Apart from that, there wasn't really a lot else on there. There was James, I suppose. There was A Certain Ratio, I think, but that was, yeah, there's not much compared to 4AD and Creation. And then Rough Trade as well. I mean, they didn't sign that many. They were more the production and distribution company for 4AD and Creation and all the other labels. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, Jeff Travis deserves a lot of respect as well. But yeah, see you later, guys. Thanks for listening.